You know that moment when everyone laughs, then silence lands on your sentence like wet concrete. Your chest tightens, your smile freezes, and suddenly your own voice sounds borrowed, thin, and wrong. Meanwhile, the other person says almost nothing brilliant, yet somehow everyone leans toward them anyway, closer. That difference is not charisma, confidence, or having better stories ready at exactly the right time. It is one quiet skill almost nobody teaches, especially to people terrified of saying too much. And once you see it, awkward conversations start feeling less like performances and more like invitations. Most quiet people think attraction in conversation comes from being more impressive, witty, informed, or interesting. So they prepare clever lines, rehearse stories, and monitor themselves like nervous pilots during turbulence inside. But monitoring yourself too hard makes you less present, and presence is what people actually feel. They do not remember your sentence. They remember whether being with you felt easy or tense. That is why some people ramble and still repel while others pause and pull everyone closer. The real problem is not quietness. It is treating conversation like a stage instead of exchange. When you enter trying to prove value, every reply becomes a test you can visibly fail. You start choosing safe words, fake laughs, agreeable nods, and polished reactions that never sound alive. Ironically, that self-protection makes you harder to connect with because nobody can truly feel you. People trust what feels honest before they admire what sounds impressive, and honesty has a rhythm. In this video, I want to give you 3 shifts that instantly change how conversations feel. First, how to stop performing and start creating relief for the person across from you today. Second, how to make your quietness feel magnetic instead of accidental, hesitant, apologetic, or invisible today. And third, the move that makes people open up faster without forcing you to talk more. Here's the first shift: stop searching for impressive things to say and search for tension. Every conversation contains invisible tension, and attractive people instinctively soften it instead of competing with it. Maybe the room is stiff, the date is nervous, the coworker is guarded, or joke failed. Most people ignore that pressure and keep pushing content, which makes everything feel heavier and artificial. Attractive conversationalists do something simpler. They name the moment lightly, and everyone exhales without noticing it. If the first date feels awkward, say we both did the tiny interview posture thing first. If the meeting feels stiff, say okay, everybody suddenly looks like they are awaiting sentencing today. That line works because it releases pressure people already feel, and that relief feels instantly attractive. Not because you became funnier, but because you can hold discomfort without pretending it away calmly. Quiet people often skip this because they think naming awkwardness will create more awkwardness for everyone. But unspoken awkwardness grows in darkness. Gently spoken awkwardness shrinks the second shared reality appears aloud. Instead of asking what should I say next, ask what pressure can I reduce right now. That question makes you observant, generous, grounded, and unexpectedly calming to be around for other people. And calming is underrated because people rarely chase the loudest presence after an exhausting day anymore. They chase the person who makes their shoulders drop half an inch without demanding your performance. Now, the second shift is smaller, but it changes your entire energy inside conversation for good. Stop trying to prove you are interesting and start showing you are interested with precision instead. Everybody knows generic interest, and it never lands because it sounds like social autopilot to people. Wow, that's crazy. Really, no way. Tell me more. Usually feels packaged, automatic, and emotionally empty. Precision is different. It shows you're actually watching, not just waiting politely for your turn. If someone says they moved cities last year, do not ask whether they like it there. Ask what surprised them first, what felt unfamiliar, or what habit from home they still miss. Suddenly, the conversation stops floating on the surface and drops into somewhere real, textured, and memorable. Precision feels attractive because it tells the other person I'm here enough to notice specifics. And people are starving for that because most interactions today feel skimmed, rushed, and half-consumed. Think about the last conversation that stayed with you. It probably contained one unexpectedly precise question. Not a big question, just one that made you feel seen beyond your public summary somehow. That is the power quiet people ignore because they assume attraction lives in bigger personality types. It often lives in smaller moments, handled with more attention than most people ever offer anyway. Before we go further, if this is hitting home, like the video and subscribe for more. And comment the conversation habit that makes you overthink most because you are not alone here. Now let me give you the third shift. And this one changes how silence feels completely. Quiet people fear silence because they think silence announces weakness, emptiness, or social failure to everyone. But attractive people use silence like eye contact. They let moments breathe instead of panicking immediately. That tiny pause after someone speaks tells them their words landed somewhere, not just passed by. Most people interrupt that landing by scrambling to reply, reassure, fix, impress, or keep momentum alive. But when you hold a pause, you communicate something deeper than cleverness. I can handle depth. Imagine telling someone about your exhausting week and they instantly jump into their own story next. Now imagine they pause, nod once, and say that sounds heavier than you expected this week. Which person feels safer, deeper, and more attractive to keep talking with for another hour tonight? Silence is not empty when it holds attention. Silence turns awkward only when it holds fear. So after someone finishes speaking, stop racing, breathe once, and let your face stay present softly. Then respond to what mattered most, not to the first thought that rescues you from silence. That single change makes you look calmer, feel sharper, and sound like someone worth trusting quickly. Here's the fourth shift, and it might be the most practical one immediately for you. Stop answering the literal question and start answering the feeling underneath the question they actually asked. When someone says, "How you been?" they usually are not requesting a medical report today. They're opening a door and checking whether you walk through honestly or hand back wallpaper. Most people reply with fine, busy, tired, good, the same old, just surviving, nothing interesting lately either. Those answers close the door gently because they give information without giving anything alive back emotionally. A better answer is small, true, and emotionally legible, even if it is simple that day. You can say, "Honestly, this week felt weird, but I am getting my energy back now." Or, "Good, actually I stopped forcing something that was draining me, and I feel lighter lately." That kind of answer gives the other person something real to hold and build from there. It also signals courage without oversharing, which is far more attractive than polished fakeness can be. And notice the pattern here: relief, precision, silence, emotional honesty. None require becoming louder at all. They require becoming less defended, less performative, and more tuned into what is actually happening between. And that brings us to the final shift, the one quiet people resist most for years. Stop trying to be liked and start helping the other person feel like themselves around you. That is the skill, that is the secret, and nobody explains it clearly to quiet people. Attraction in conversation is not generated by making people admire you from a distance first anyway. It is generated by making them feel more comfortable, more seen, and more themselves near you. Think about the people everyone loves talking to, even when they are not especially loud either. They leave conversations with others feeling bigger, clearer, funnier, safer, and surprisingly unjudged than before somehow. That effect is unforgettable because people remember who they became around you for those few minutes. They do not say, "Wow, brilliant monologue." They say, "I felt weirdly comfortable telling them things." They do not say facts. They say, "I do not know why, but I like them." Quiet people miss this because they think attraction is earned by adding more to every moment. More energy, more stories, more wit, more proof, more confidence, more sparkle, more everything on display. But the strongest conversational presence often comes from subtraction, not addition, when pressure and pretending disappear. Remove the scramble to impress, and people can finally feel your steadiness underneath the surface instead. Remove vague interest, and people feel the warmth of your attention instead of the shape alone. Remove fear of silence, and meaning has room to arrive before words trample it too quickly. Remove the polished mask, and people stop meeting your strategy and start meeting you for real. This is why some quiet people become magnetic later in life without changing personality at all. They stop worshiping performance and start trusting presence, and everyone around them deals the difference immediately. You can see it at dinners, dates, team meetings, parties, elevators, phone calls, even checkout lines. One person fills every gap with speed, and the room stays oddly unsatisfied despite all that. Another person notices tension, asks one precise question, waits half a beat, and suddenly everything opens. Same room, same topic, same people, but completely different emotional gravity. The air feels easier instantly. And here's the part nobody tells quiet people early enough, when they are still struggling. You do not need to become more extroverted to become more attractive in conversation at all. You need to become more relieving, more attentive, more emotionally honest, and more unafraid of pauses. Because the rarest experience a day is not entertainment, it is feeling safe enough to be real. And the people who create that feeling become unforgettable even if their voice stays soft forever. So next time you walk into a conversation, do not ask how to sound impressive first. Ask how to make the moment lighter, clearer, safer, and more real for both people there. Ask what pressure is hiding here, what detail deserves attention, and what silence needs protecting right. Ask what honest answer would open the door instead of closing it politely this time around. And ask how to leave this person feeling more like themselves than before you walked in. Do that, and your quietness stops reading like hesitation and starts reading like depth to everyone. Your pauses stop sounding empty and start sounding deliberate, steady, and strangely confident in that moment. Your questions stop sounding polite and start sounding intimate without crossing any line too early either. Your presence stops asking for approval and starts offering permission for other people to relax fully. That is when people lean in, not because you dazzled them, but because you freed them. Freed them from guessing your mood, from carrying the conversation, from performing back at you too. Freed them from the tiny loneliness of being unseen in ordinary interactions that happen every day. And people never forget who made ordinary moments feel less lonely than they expected them to. So yes, the most attractive conversation skill quiet people ignore is not speaking better at all. It is making the other person feel safe enough, interesting enough, and understood enough to bloom. That is why relief beats brilliance, attention beats charm, and honesty beats polish almost every time. That is why presence beats performance, even when performance looks stronger from far away at first. And that is why the quiet person who truly sees people rarely stays overlooked forever anyway. People eventually notice the ones who make conversation feel like a window, not a spotlight anyway. Because the most magnetic voice in any room is the one that makes others feel heard.